I am so much happier now making a quarter of the money that I used to, and it's just because I have this around me and I can live on a pretty tight budget and still be extremely happy.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our next video. As you can see, us three reporters for CRVL, Cheap RV Living, are here now. When we get together, we love to shoot videos together. I think you get a much broader perspective. And so today we want to talk about pleasant surprises when we became nomads. We went on the road, and you don't really know what to expect. You watch a lot of videos, you think you know what's going to happen, but once you get out here, there's negative surprises, and we have a video on negative surprises. We all had them. You can expect them. So go watch that video on negative surprises. But today we're looking at just, oh wow, this is so much better than I had thought it would be. I'm so glad I'm out here. That's what we're talking about today. So we got to keep that balance. You should go and see the negatives too. But man, there's a lot of positives. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So Autumn, did you have any really positive surprises?
Absolutely. I had so many positive surprises. And one of the most unexpected things that I experienced is that I came to love windstorms. And I did not love windstorms when I lived in a house. But I started out in a car, and then being in my minivan, I feel like I get to be protected from the wind, but in the midst of that chaos. And honestly, it's kind of almost like a mystical experience for me. So I actually seek out the windstorms and I enjoy them.
I can't say that I enjoy them, but I can say that, I've owned a lot of rigs, and some big rigs that are just shaking like this. And I'll have to say there is something pleasant about that experience. But overall, no, windstorms are not a positive for me.
Yeah, I mean, while I don't love the winds, I've been in, one time I was in 80-mile-an-hour winds, or gust to 80-mile-an-hour winds, and that was very unfun in the motorhome because I'm higher profile. I wasn't driving, but still sitting there. But those 20-mile-an-hour winds, I actually don't mind the subtle rocking. It's almost like you're in a boat, and so it just kind of like sways me a little bit. As long as it's not abrupt and you get pounded with those 80-mile-an-hour winds, I can see that there is a little bit of fun in that. Although I know plenty of nomads, they disdain the wind. So you might be surprised what you find you enjoy, as Autumn did. You don't have to love the wind, but you might find you do.
The first 40 years of my life, I was not a very happy person. I would not say there was joy in my life or even real happiness in my life. But when I was 40, I went through divorce and I was forced onto the road, and I went on the road. And as I went further and further into it, and eventually I was out here boondocking all the time in nature, I started to actually experience pretty profound moments of joy just in nature that would well up from within me. I'd just be out for a walk, and I loved all my walks, and I would just look around and be awestruck, and I would just have this great sense of joy. I've always been a nature person, spent my whole life outside, but it became so much more deep and internal for me when I moved out here. The joy of nature.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I'm not a very spiritual person, but I will say I just feel so much more at home outdoors and in nature, and that's my happy place. So, it's part of that profound joy. It's where I'll just suddenly have a huge smile on my face without even knowing it, and it's just like, wow, this is just amazing. Like those walks, and because we're not stuck inside in your climate-controlled little bubble, you are in the wind, in the sun, in this, and you are touching nature all the time. And so I totally understand that point of view.
I like how you phrased touching nature all the time, because what I experienced out here, a beautiful, pleasant surprise, is how much I was impacted by nature in a way I never was in house life. I will sleep more in the winter. I will sleep less in the summer. And I just feel primal. I feel connected to my animal body. I feel connected to my ancestors. winters are hard, so I have to kind of prep for them in ways that you read about more in kind of like older novels, but not in modern day. And so that connection to nature really has absolutely connected me to something greater than myself.
I just add one more thing here. You know, here we are, and we've shot this so you can see these beautiful little flowers. We're in the desert. You don't think of the desert as being wildflower country, but here they are. And so we came here to shoot this. And one of the things I'll do over the spring and summer, starting in the desert with its bloom, I will work my way north into the high country of the mountains, California's poppies, and follow the wildflower bloom, and that brings me joy. So Brian, what is your wonderful positive surprise?
I think the thing I was surprised about most was the community. Like when I first hit the road 17 years ago, I thought I was the only one doing this. And so when I came out here, through just different chats and things like that, I met Bob and 12 other people that were all camping in Pahrump. And we just made such good connections. And just throughout the years with the RTR and other events, I have grown that community. And that was surprising to me because, again, I thought I was going to be the only one out here doing this stuff. And I thought I'd be alone all the time. But man, if you are desiring that community, it is out here and it is waiting for you. And so I think that was the cool thing. I feel more connected to community here than I ever did in the sticks and bricks or in the city. And so, yeah, that's something that really surprised me.
This is a huge one for me as well. I had not expected it. And so I was really surprised. You know, in our real lives, some of you are still in your real life, in the city, and you're, live in stick and bricks and all that. We develop this distrust of each other. We go around and when we see someone in the wrong place, and we walk down the road and maybe someone's following us, and that the hairs on the back of our neck stand up. And out here, Ben, that almost never happens. I see someone, and if I get any chance to meet them and know them, I find they are just amazing, wonderful, generous, kind people. Would give you the shirt off their back in a heartbeat if they possibly could. I just experience that all the time, and I've given a lot of thought to why these deep, profound connections, lifetime connections, are made almost instantly. And I think it's because the anxiety of life drops off, and the real us can finally come out. And it's an amazing, astonishing thing. I would wish that for all of you.
I completely relate to what both of you guys are saying. And I would say my sense of community, both with fellow nomads and even my community of non-nomads, what really surprised me was how many non-nomads supported this lifestyle. I had this idea that people were going to think I was crazy and strange and eccentric and weird or irresponsible or things along those lines. And even non-nomads have been incredibly encouraging. But I have loved meeting fellow nomads who are willing to do the hard things, who are willing to take that leap of faith and follow their dreams. I just love being around anybody who does that, no matter what your dreams are. I'm very inspired by people who follow their passions. And my goodness, I just feel like other nomads I meet love this life. So another thing that really surprised me about becoming a nomad is how my enjoyment of normal travel changed. I have always loved seeing new places, and so I've been an avid traveler most of my life. It's one of the reasons I wanted to become a nomad. However, once I became a nomad, it was so enjoyable to have my home and my routine and my little rituals with me everywhere I go that I actually stopped enjoying kind of normal tourism travel. I do not like flying on airlines. I find almost the time pressure to catch a flight and to leave at a certain time to be very stressful. And to have the experience of traveling where you have your space needs met and you don't have to sit so close to people. I'm a very introverted person, and so that's why this matters to me. Even something like a cruise or just staying in hotels, I don't find that I enjoy them, and I avoid those experiences now because I get to see beautiful new places outside my minivan window while drinking my coffee, having my routine, sleeping in my same bed. And so while I still love travel, I don't like tourism travel.
Yeah, that's really true for me. Flying has always been a problem, but it just seems like, and as I've gotten older, it's actually becoming much more of a problem. I find myself really struggling to keep up with the quickness of air travel anymore. I like to travel, but man, I can't imagine it any other way but in my vehicle.
Yeah, we kind of get spoiled out here, honestly. Like having all of your stuff with you at all times, you know, you're sitting outside, you're like, oh, I need this. Oh, it's right behind me. You know, it's so convenient. I'm getting ready to take a trip here the next week where I'm going to be flying back to see a buddy in Denver. And it's stressful because I know I'm going to have to pack all these things. Like, what do I need? What do I need for this? The weather's going to be hot here, cold there. And so it does add a layer of stress, whereas if it's hot or cold, you have all your clothes with you. You don't have to worry about picking and choosing. You know what you got, and man, it's so nice.
Right.
Yeah. So one more thing that I knew should happen, but I didn't know for a fact, and maybe you're wondering about, would I have enough money? And when I first went on the road, I retired early, and so I had a small pension, but I didn't have my Social Security yet. At first I was concerned about it, but what I found was I could, even with my small little pension, I could live very comfortably on just that pension. Tight, but on that pension. And then I decided I'd become a campground host and just work for 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 months out of the summer and get that extra income, and that would just make all the difference. So I did that. And boy, with that extra income, when I was done with that season of campground hosting, I was financially set. I had extra money in the bank. I didn't have to worry about money at all.
Yeah, as far as the money savings, I completely agree with that. I was surprised now I did have a little emergency fund before I hit the road, and I recommend that, we will all agree that you definitely need an emergency fund before you hit the roads. It just takes a lot of stress off of your life. But I was able to, through working as a campground host with Bob and just throughout the years, I've been able to actually save more than I spend each and every year. Now, I will say I don't spend as frivolously as I used to. So, you know, you don't go to the bar and buy a round for everyone. You just don't do those things. You just, you have what you need and you live a full but also an economic life, you know? And so I am so much happier now making a quarter of the money that I used to. And it's just because I have this around me and I can live on a pretty tight budget and still be extremely happy.
My experience with money as a nomad, I actually wanted to become a nomad so that I would save, and I will share with you guys that felt so good. For the first time in my adult life, I was really able to pad my savings, and I have been responsible. I have steered clear of as much debt as possible, but not completely. And yet I could not save money living in normal life with a regular, well-paying job. It just, the cost of living was too expensive. So when I got to put that money in my savings account and see it grow, that felt so good. It changed something really significant inside of me. It brought about a sense of confidence. It brought about a sense of strength. And gosh, I just wouldn't trade that.
Yeah, I mean, with rent these days, like, think about all that money that you're putting towards rent each and every month. It's now that is no longer going to that particular thing. So you can easily, you know, buy your food, your gas, things like that, and then the rest of it can go into savings. Yeah. So it is very economical.
When I first moved into a van, I lived in a van for 6 years while I worked towards retirement. And so what I was able to do by living in the van and eliminating rent was only work 4 days a week. And I know so many people who get wait so much for the holidays and they get a 3-day weekend. Well, I had a 3-day weekend for at least 5 of those 6 years. And I think it's the only way I was able to endure that job I really disliked. And so that made all the difference in my life. It just brought a level of freedom and enjoyment that I never could have had without that, how cheaply I was able to live by living in a van.
You know, and you mentioned freedom. That's actually the next thing on my list, because, and this is actually 2 parts to this a little bit. We have a ton more freedom while you're out on the road. You also have more free time. And so that is something to think about. I think back to when I had a career job and I only had 2 weeks off a year. I don't know how I survived. Like at this point, I usually only work about 4 or 5 months a year, and I love the months that I'm not working. I enjoy while I'm working because by the time I get done with my break of not working, I'm ready to charge back in, I'm refreshed, I'm good, and I'll work for those 4 or 5 months, but then I have my time off again. So it's no longer just fighting for those 2 weeks.
Right.
I think the surprise that I came across was that I had all this extra freedom of my time and free time to go do whatever hobbies I want. And so I loved that part.
I think to myself, I had more time and I had more money to have both, because usually you trade those two things for one another.
Yeah.
But out here, it was creating a life with more time and more money. And of course, there was a reduction of comforts. You know, as Bob shared, we have a whole other video on difficult surprises. However, to be able to direct where I got to place my life essence, because that was so stressful before. It's one of the reasons I became a nomad, is I thought there are so many things I want to do, and to just keep a roof over my head and pay my bare bone bills, I was burning out all the time. And then I couldn't put that energy into the small business enterprises I wanted to do because I just didn't have it. It came at the cost of tremendous stress. Out here, we get to choose where we place our energy, and it's just been such a gift.
Yeah, and I just agree so totally that freedom is really the primary reason that I think, and you ask any nomad, why do they love being a nomad? Why do they put up with the problems? And there are lots of problems. Why do you put up with it? And I think the number one reason we will all give is the freedom. And it's freedom for a lot of things. When I get out here, so I'm going to spend, I'm a snowbird. I think we're all snowbirds. Yep. We're going to be down here in the desert. And at some point, I'm going to get sick of being in the desert. I'm just going to get sick of it. And just when I get sick of it, the weather is changing up north and I can start moving with the seasons to a whole new climate. And when this stops being beautiful to me, and it will, I'll go to somewhere else which is just all new and beautiful. I'll go to the high in-between country and on the high desert, which is completely different. And then I'll go up into the low mountains, and then I'll go up into Colorado at 10,000 feet, and it'll just be astonishingly beautiful. And I will make that circuit. I made this circuit every year. And then when I get tired of the mountains and the forest, and it starts to turn cold, just then I'll say, oh, I get to go back to the desert that I love so much. The weather isn't always perfect, but if it's too awful, I can move and I can find something somewhere that's better. And if I'm around people who I don't enjoy being around, someone moves in and he's running his generator all night and he's playing loud music, and as all of his friends come over and they're partying and they're making a filthy mess, I put the key in the ignition and I just turn it a tiny little bit and I drive away.
Yep.
And to me, being able to choose what I enjoy most at this moment, most of the time is priceless and worth any costs, and there are costs to being a nomad.
It's such a gift. I am definitely a lifer. Are you guys lifers?
Lifers.
For sure.
For the fellow nomads out there, what are some of your best unexpected surprises? Let us know in the comments below, and we hope you got something out of this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.